Hello everyone and welcome along to Cornflakes Crib, where we have a special discussion topic for you all today. I'm joined again by the lovely Scottish Cannon. How are you, and thank you for joining me again?
Yeah, I'm going well. I'm surprised by the word lovely you used to describe me.
This is the first thing that come to my mind. Thanks for joining me with this one. We're going to have a look at the Super Rugby semi-finals, which are coming up this weekend. It's a pretty big game in this part of the world, pretty big matches between two New Zealand franchises and two Australian franchises. First up, of course, we have the Hurricanes, the top performing side in Super Rugby this year. They're up against the Brumbies, and looking through the squad and looking at who they've got coming in and out, these Hurricanes, throughout their season, they have been fantastic. But when you look at who's in and out, let's go through this for you just quickly. Beauden Barrett's back. Ma'anonu's back in, Ardie Savaire's back in, Broadhurst is back in as well. The only loss they've got is Corey Jane, and they've got a near sold out stadium. Do you think all those things are going to be a big factor for this match?
Yes, I honestly really do think so. And we might talk about it a bit further on, but also in regards to the Brumbies, they've got a big out with Henry Spate obviously being suspended for 5 weeks for the red card on I forgot who it was, on the Stormers 14, I think, and then obviously the trip from South Africa to New Zealand. But I think we'll get into a bit more details a bit further in.
Yep, we sure will. That was my next point of discussion right off there. Henry Spate out for the Brumbies. What was your opinion on what happened with that?
Well, as a referee, it's a straight red. He's gone above the horizontal right on his head. Straight red. Completely agree with that. I'm not sure where the 5 weeks is from, to be honest. Because, I mean, you can see some kneeing incidents and other incidents where, you know, they actually want to inflict pain on the opponent, and they only kept 3 or 4. I'm just a bit surprised with the harshness of the week, 5 weeks. They obviously appealed it and lost. So, you know, it's a bit disappointing for him, but it was the right call by Jacko Piper on the weekend. And, you know, it's just disappointing out for the Brumbies.
Yeah, it's a massive loss because him and Tamani were looking like two of the best wingers in the competition. No question about that. But the travel, it has to be a factor, doesn't it? Coming from Australia over to South Africa and then back again to New Zealand, that has to take its toll.
I think it's going to be a massive toll, because even just adjusting to jet lag as well, because I'm not sure how the Brumbies prepared for this. I'm not sure if they spent some time in Canberra or if they went straight over to New Zealand. I don't know if you know a bit more on that, but you know, I think it's going to be a really big difference. And I think did not happen last year as well, where they went off to South Africa, got a win, and then they lost in the semis. Yeah, they did. They lost to the Waratahs last year. So, you know, it's going to be a big ask for them. But, you know, what do you think?
Yeah, I heard on the radio earlier that they aren't even training. They're just doing rests and light little things around. They're not doing full-on proper training over the week. So it's obviously taking its toll on the team. There's no way you can go about not with all those hours of travel, all that distance. Just, it has to take its toll on the team. And they're going to be tired. Like, are they going to even last 80 minutes? Or are they going to go an hour and then just completely break down? Which is something I guess we'll find out on Saturday night. Now, some interesting stats have come out before this match as well. The Hurricanes have only lost twice in the season. The Brumbies have lost 7.
Yeah. What
do you think is the difference? What have the Brumbies done to really tick along? Because, let's be fair, they did destroy the Stormers last weekend.
Yes, they did.
Do you think the difference of Leliafano going into fly half or first 5, number 10, whatever you want to call it, is a difference, or is it just a matter of form?
You know, I think you bring up a good point there, because I think Tamura, I like Tamura inside centre more than 10, but at the same time, Lefano plays really well at inside centre. You know, I think the combination change has worked very well, but I think you know, I can maybe talk about how the outside backs with Tamani, especially last weekend, it was lightning quick, and you know, and also the Wallabies front rowers have always been playing well for the Brumbies, but you know, they've lost 7 games throughout the year. That's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's surprising that they've actually lost. When I looked that up, that they had actually lost that many games as well. But that something's happened. Something's clicked for them, because they started off really as a favourite, and then they kind of just disappeared behind the horizon a bit, and everyone kind of forgot about the Brumbies, and now they've just reared their head up again, and they've really come out as a big factor, which leads nicely into my next point. The best defence in the competition, that goes to the Brumbies, but on the other hand, the best attack is the Hurricanes. How is that going to affect this matchup? Are they going to cancel each other out, or is it going to be just a big explosion battle out there on the field?
Honestly, very, very difficult question. You know, obviously, the Hurricanes having the attacking weapons of Julian Savia, Martin Nonu, Conrad Smith, Millen, Scudder. I mean, look at that backline is world class, just in itself. That all-back line is amazing. But I'm not sure if Stephen Larkham is just a very, very focused more on defense, because I know, especially, they've been scoring a lot of points, the Brumbies, as well, but they've been losing those tight games. So it just really depends if it's going to be a high-scoring game or a lower-scoring game. I think if the higher scoring, the more points in the game, the more chance the Hurricanes are going to win. But, if the Brumbies can shut down the attacking weapons of Julian Savia, Conrad Smith, Martin Nonu, they'll be in for a chance. But, do you see that likely happening?
It's going to be hard. They're one of the best backlines. They'll be the hardest to defend. And if they can, it's a good sign for Australian rugby all around, really, if they can. If they can go forward from that and show that they can defend. And who knows what the Wallabies could get up to, really, if they can keep that mindset. Another interesting stat coming through, round 4 last year was the last time these two sides met in 2014, 29-21 to the Brumbies. Do you think they will have any mindset challenge to either of the sides?
No, not at all. It was a year and a bit ago that the Hurricanes have lost 2 games this season. I mean, to the Crusaders, and it was to the Crusaders and the Waratahs, I think. So, it's not going to make any of a difference, to be honest. But, they've had that advantage, the Brumbies, of not playing them. They probably might have even got in the finals if they would have matched up against the Hurricanes. But, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, that's another big topic for sure. So, all in all, end of the day, who's going to win? What's your margin?
I'm going Hurricanes by 10.
Hurricanes by 10? Probably not far off, really. That's probably a fairly good prediction. It's going to be interesting. The weather, I think, will play a big part in the game as well.
It's because it's freezing as well, isn't it, over there?
It is where I am, but I don't know if up that north end of the country is so bad. I think they've got more of a problem with rain. So if it is wet, I think they might advantage the Brumbies a bit more.
Ooh, it might, because Canberra is a very rainy place. But
yeah, and they're definitely big in their forwards as well. Definitely strong part of their game is their forward play. So that is the Brumbies and the Hurricanes. We're both going for the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good game. Hopefully, hopefully if the weather's good, at least it should be good.
Yeah, I just want to put one final point in there. The Hurricanes also, they need to shut down the maul from the Brumbies. They've got the best, probably, rolling maul in the competition this year. David Pocock scored numerous tries. I think he scored about 8 tries off the back of mauls. So, they need to shut down the Brumbies maul, especially in their own 22.
Yeah, that's just a good point too, because he got 2 hat-tricks as well this season from those. That's just ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous from a forward like that. But do you think that's something that the Wallabies will try and adopt into their play as well?
A very, very interesting question, because Michael Checker, the Waratahs have a very, very big problem with their maul, and their lineup play as well. So, I'm not sure what Michael Checker will be doing. I think Stephen Larkham, though, is an assistant coach for the Wallabies. So, if that's a tactic they want to do, and, face up to the Northern Hemisphere best, I think Ireland and England probably have the best 2 rolling mauls in the world, and South Africa as well, as obviously. But I think the Wallabies, if they are to, push for the World Cup this year, they really need to integrate that into their game.
Yep, that's a definite thing there. So, on to match 2 of the weekend. Of course, the Waratahs will be hosting the Highlanders. This is a massive game on so many different levels. But first off, the team, and a big one for the Waratahs, a massive loss, is Curtly Beale is out. Carraro will be in. Do you figure that's going to be a huge hit for the Waratahs?
No, And I'll tell you why. Because they may miss this attacking flair, but Curtly Beale's defense, it's been improving, but Matt Carrero is probably one of the best inside centers, defensive centers in the world. That's my opinion. You can, do what you want with that, but I think Matt Carrero's got absolutely outstanding defense. I'm not really sure how they'll influence the attacking play for the Waratahs. But, they could obviously use Curtly Beale and obviously his X factor, but I'm really happy to see the improved defense, especially in that middle third that the Waratahs will get on the weekend.
Do you think, it's slightly off topic here again, but do you think that Curtly Beale is a bit too much of an individual in the way he plays a lot of the time?
Yes and no. I think he's been a bit much more quiet this year. He maybe hasn't played his natural game enough, or maybe he's actually got a different role within the Waratahs. But I mean, they've got their attacking weapons with obviously Falau and Naivia Rivoro now. So I'm not sure. I think he's definitely been worse than last year, but I think Matt Carrero can easily take over Curtly Beale in his role.
Yep, that's good, at least for the Waratahs. It should solid them up a bit more there. On to the form of these two sides. Now, the Highlanders have won 5 of their past 6 games, all by double-figure margins. They are just one match away from booking their first grand final appearance since 1999, where they sadly lost. The Waratahs, they have 4 wins from their last 5 games, but, of course, winners last year as well. Is that experience of grand final rugby going to be more important for the Waratahs, or is form heading into this game going to be a bigger factor?
I want your answer to that question first. What do you think?
Form.
Form?
Yep. Easy form. The Highlanders are on hot form. I reckon that's all that's giving them a chance even in this game. If they slipped up a little bit last week and were a bit dodgy, I'd give the Waratahs 50% more chance of winning this game than I would right now.
Well, I'm obviously going to disagree with you because I'm biased. I'm from New South Wales in Australia. I think, our experience of winning last year's is obviously going to be a major help for us, especially in front of our own home crowd. I'm actually going to the game. So, the Allianz Stadium crowd is going to get fully behind the Waratahs. I'm expecting probably a good 30,000 people there, maybe a bit less. But, it's going to be a great semi-final. I think this is going to be one for the ages, and especially with the 2 attacking backlines.
Yeah, that's a good point. What's interesting about this game is it's kind of your team against my team, which is going to be funny as well.
Yeah, it is.
Although I'm not directly from Otago, but Southland is the closest you can get to Otago. It's in the catchment area, so it's as good as it gets.
Yeah, well, let's try and keep our biased opinions out of this, but it's sort of hard not to, isn't it?
The Highlanders, they're it's hard to describe, but they're such typically an inconsistent side. They're, especially in previous years, like 2 years ago they were second last. Last year they showed a bit of that promise to get into the playoff games, and now this year it just seems like they've just naturally progressed with this team, which, to be perfectly honest, is, and it's been called this time and time again, especially in the New Zealand media, a bunch of no-namers. And they go back to that cliche of, a champion team is always better than a team of champions. And that's really how the Highlanders are playing. Sure, they've got the Smiths and the Fikatoa, who are obviously All Blacks, but there's a lot that makes up that team that's not from that All Black kind of mould.
I have a question for you. Who's going to win the forward battle on the weekend? Tars or Highlanders?
Surely the Waratahs have the advantage. They have the talent, they have the names, they have the players. There's no question about that. When you look through, there's so many Wallaby players in there. I really like Jack Potgieter. He's such a... I don't even know how to describe him, but he's like a little cracker, He's just so explosive and just gives the Waratahs forwards, I think, something different, in the way that they play, being a South African and everything. Obviously, Hooper, he's world-class, one of the best going around in his position as well. But I just feel that you just can't write off the Highlanders forward pack as well. I don't think they're going to have the advantage, but I don't think, and this is what might catch the Waratahs out, is that they could very well underestimate what this Highlanders team can do, what their forwards can do as well. like, they're good players, like, experience as well. When you look at the likes of Mark Reddish, Elliot Dixon, Nasi Manu, Liam Coltman as well. They're all players who have been around for a long time, experienced in their own right, although not probably at finals rugby. But no one's pushed the Highlanders around. No one's really hammered them in the forwards at all. And they've gone up against, obviously, the best as well. And if they can at least hold their own ball still and keep hold of it and not go backwards, Aaron Smith is going to run riot, because he is just out of this world at the moment. He's in the best form of his life.
Yeah, talking of such, a couple of things. First of all, do you think the Waratahs' extra week of rest it's really deserved, because the draw that came out, they played something like 8 or 9 straight games. Do you think the rest, the bye for the Waratahs, is going to be a big difference?
It's like any bye, really, isn't it? It's either gonna help them or it's gonna hurt them. It's gonna depend on their attitude, whether they're gonna come out firing or they're gonna come out complacent. And that's what it comes down to. Well, what are the Waratahs going to do? Of course, you're going to say that they're going to come out, refreshed and reinvigorated and ready to go. But it's just that thing, playing an extra match. The team that plays it always say, we're battle ready, we're hardened, we're match ready, we're in the mood. And then the team that rests is always going to say, we're in 100% condition. Surely you can't go into a semi-final being complacent, but the Waratahs, you surely have to back them to be ready to go for that match for sure.
Yep, definitely.
What about you?
Definitely. I think I was just watching the news headlines earlier today, actually, and the Waratahs hadn't changed anything about their week, the last week. They haven't. What I mean by that is winning the competition last year, their lead up for their semi-final, they've done nothing different. So it's all experience for them. They've all done it before. They were in the same position last year. Hopefully that experience will get them over the line. Hopefully they'll be refreshed. They really, really deserve the rest. Over to South Africa, back, beat the Reds, and then getting that week's rest and just refreshing the body. Everyone was hurting. Everyone was probably carrying a couple injuries, but hopefully Nick Phipps can play well, because he had an absolute shocker against the Reds. It's really important for him to get the Waratahs on the front football and, let their big men, Naivira Voro, Israel Folau, Palu, Skelton, just run over and destroy the Highlanders.
Not biased at all.
No, well.
Speaking of that, you brought up a good point, which was one other point I was going to bring up later on. But right now, as the table finished, at the end of the regular season, both the Chiefs and the Highlanders finished with more points on the table than the Waratahs. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the conference system, this has been saying it's been huge in New Zealand media over this week as well, since the regular season finished. Do you think this conference system is flawed or unfair? Because the Highlanders, they say, finished more points than the Waratahs, yet they had to play extra match against the Chiefs and now have to travel away to face the Waratahs, a team which they accumulated more points than in the regular season. If that makes sense. Do you think that's a problem?
It's going to get even worse next year, mate, with the 2016 Super Rugby franchise, obviously with the 7 or 8 tables. I was watching a video on it the other day, and it's going to just get messy next year. It's really, really going to get messy. But honestly, I do think it's a bit of a problem. But at the same time, the Australian competition with obviously the Reds and the Force, the bottom two to play teams this year, I think it really is flawed. The New Zealand probably deserved to actually have the Crusaders in the final as well, but they Crusaders obviously had to play the Chiefs and the Highlanders and all this quality opposition where Waratahs played the Force twice, even though they lost to them. They should have beat them, right? I really think it's disappointing for the Highlanders. They played better than the Waratahs throughout the year. They beat the Waratahs this year over in Invercargill, I think, or it might have been the other Dunedin. That's it.
Yep.
But I agree. Even though I'm biased and I'm happy with the home semi-final.
Obviously, you would be. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be. I'm really happy with the conference system, but at the same time, I think it's really robbed away from the Chiefs and the Highlanders.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. They're saying the New Zealand conference is, by all means, a difficult conference because you have I guess you could say the Blues weren't really a team that was up to the point, but, in South Africa, there's a couple of teams that are always the weaker side. Normally the Lions and the Cheetahs, but can you say that about them this year? The Lions were pretty good this year, but regardless, the Force and the Rebels and that, not really, top-notch. They're not like playing against the Waratahs or the Brumbies or the Hurricanes twice a season. They're not up to that top level. Yeah. And the Crusaders, rightfully so, could be a bit annoyed missing out. Then the New Zealand sides technically finished 1, 2 and 3 as well, which is another interesting point. If the table was all congested into one table instead of being all split up. But at the same time, didn't the Waratahs have much more wins than them? Because we've hardly picked up any bonus points in them. Do you maybe think the bonus point system's maybe not as good as it could be? Well, that's been another point that's been quite brought up as well. If you take the bonus points out, it changes the whole table completely all over again. And because it only takes four bonus points. If you made up a win, which is a massive amount to make up. But something's definitely not right. But like you say, next season, she's going to be absolute. It's going to be a fiasco. It's going to be you're going to need a calculator just to work out, middle of the season. It'll be horrible, yeah. But that's all right. That's for next year to worry about. But for now, that's what is happening. You brought it up in your last statement, but the Waratahs did go down to the Highlanders in March, in Dunedin that was. Do you think that's going to play on their mind at all? Yes and no. I think the Waratahs, they lost that game by 7 points, didn't they? So 26-19. So it was a close game in the end, but Waratahs definitely weren't playing their best. They took a long time to start. Kept form in the season. I think was that round 4 or something, very early on in the season. Yeah, March. Yeah, that was very early on in the season. So that's one of the first few rounds. Yeah, exactly. So look at the progression now. The Waratahs started slow in 2014, ended up winning the comp. Highlanders started strong and stayed consistent all throughout. So, I think it will play in their mind at the same time. But we do have the home ground advantage, and we've developed a good chemistry and a good structure that hopefully will top over the Highlanders. Would you think this match would be different had the game been in Dunedin? Like, would your opinion on who will win be different? I would think 100% because. Highlanders home crowd. Because they haven't really played finals that much in the 15 years of the comp. The fans are dying out for they're dying out for that home ground advantage, and unfortunately they're not getting it this year. And because the Waratahs got to come over to Sydney in front of a packed 30,000 people, all cheering for the Waratahs, it's got to be somewhat of a factor. Well, that game, the preliminary playoff, whatever they call it, that was pretty much sold out last weekend as well, which was, that's like a 16th man on the field kind of thing as well. Yeah. And going by what you just said too, if the Brumbies win, it will be a grand final. If the Highlanders win it as well in Dunedin. Just so you don't forget. No, it's interesting though as well, because if the Hurricanes do topple to the Brumbies, the Waratahs will be. And the Waratahs obviously of the Highlanders, there'll be a home semi-final, Waratahs versus Brumbies, and that will be in front of probably 80,000 people. So, just something to think about. It could go either way. But it's probably looking more towards the New Zealand side of things. But I think it will be a Waratahs Hurricanes final. But that's probably where I'm to. So that perfectly leading in again. You're on fire. Obviously you think the Waratahs going to win. What's your margin? I'll go Waratahs by 7. By 7? Yeah. Yeah, the Highlanders have only won twice in Sydney. Does that surprise you? No, because I think it's 13-6 Waratahs over Highlanders as well. That's head-to-head, yep. Yeah, so 7-2 in Sydney. Yeah, 7-2 in Sydney. I think Highlands also won the 3 of the last 5 against the Waratahs as well. So, there might be somewhat of a factor, but Sydney, Allianz Stadium is a colossus. It's where the Waratahs don't often lose. I know they lost to the Force this year and the Stormers, but, they don't often lose there. Yeah. What happened to you Stormers, by the way? I don't know, mate. I think... go and ask any South African player, South African, fan. I think been reading tweets and stuff that South African rugby is just that far behind at the moment, behind New Zealand and Australian rugby. And the Stormers
come up against the Brumbies, we were tied, and it was theirs to lose, the Stormers.
There was indeed, very much so. Well, that wraps us up anyway for a short little preview of what's coming up this weekend. All going well. If you're interested, Scottish Cannon will be back again next week for a bit of a look at the final.
Yes,
if
hopefully.
you're up for that as well.
And then only if the Waratahs make it, mate.
If the Waratahs make it, I'll drag you along here anyway. That's all right. And then, hopefully, all going well, we'll have a recap of the season coming up in the not too distant future as well after the grand final, of course. But thank you for joining me. Thank you to the Scottish Cannon again for joining me.
No problem. Thanks for having me on the channel.
Cool, no worries, and thank you for tuning in and watching. Hope you enjoyed this little look at what's coming up this weekend. Be sure to leave your comments on what you think will happen down below as well. And remember, this is just our opinion on what's going to happen, so be sure to let me know exactly what you think as well. And we will see you all next time. Until then, take care.
Goodbye.